Welcome back to Elden Ring. In this video we are going to be taking a look at 6 weapons you must have. And just quickly before we get any further into the video, if you're not currently subbed to the channel, make sure you do sub, turn notifications on. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, all support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to support me further as a creator, then check out the links in the description. And also, let me know in the comments your favourite weapon in the entire game, and let's get into it. So weapon number 1 is Mohgwyn's Sacred Spear. It's a great spear that is absolutely fantastic because of the skill. This has C strength and arcane scaling. It's got a D dexterity scaling. The attributes are fairly high on it: 24 strength, 27 arcane and 14 dexterity. It does have an 87 blood loss build up. You'll see, like most if not all of the other bleed based weapons, the attack power also scales with fire damage. And the skill for this one is Blood Boon Ritual. It's got a standard FP cost of 20 and then a further cost of 20 as well. So if we check this weapon out, if I stand here and I press my left trigger, you're kind of going to stab the air and cause a load of blood loss. Whereas if you press it and then you press it again, it does a second stab, and then press it again, it does a third one that lasts a lot longer. And the amount of damage you deal with this is crazy. So if we quickly drink a flask to bring our FP back up, if I come down here and I press my left trigger, I swear to God, these guys get me all the time. I've probably chose the worst place to showcase these weapons. So again, if I press my left trigger and then press it again, you're going to just see all of the blood loss building up, and it's quite a big area of effect as well. Please don't do your spiky. No, there we go, perfect. So, left trigger. And then we go again. You'll see the blood loss just building up everywhere. Your poise breaking. It's so good to use this weapon. Is going to be good against big groups of enemies, but you've got to be able to get that initial sort of stab into the air, just so that you stagger the enemies and you don't get knocked out of it. But Mohgwyn's Sacred Spear, definitely recommend this weapon. And weapon number 2 is the Death Ritual Spear. This one is going to scale a lot better with dexterity. It's got D scaling for strength and intelligence. It's got a B for dex. The requirements are 14 strength, 18 intelligence and 20 dexterity. And this one is going to, because of the intelligence scaling, is going to scale with magic attack power. And again, like most weapons in the game, you're going to focus on the skill. This skill is called Spear Call Ritual, and it's just got a base 20 FP cost. There's no extra follow-up attacks or anything like that. But if we get this one out and we come down to the enemies and we press our left trigger, you are going to summon a load of spears that just rain down on your enemies. And the standard damage isn't too bad, but it's not that great. It's all about just getting used to where you need to stand and everything like that. Because you'll see there, over 1,000 damage to multiple enemies. And then ending up on like 1 HP. But because this weapon is a spear, you're also going to get good range with its standard attacks. And it's not necessarily that this is like the most overpowered best weapon in the game, but I really like that you can rain down the spears. Then weapon number 3 is Bastard Stars. In the first video, so the 6 most broken OP weapons, I showcased the Wing of Estelle, and I said if you pair it with another weapon that we'll look at, being this weapon, if you pair these two together, so Bastard Stars and Wing of Estelle, you are going to have a really good set of weapons for a magic build. So Bastard Stars will scale with intelligence, strength and dexterity, E for strength, C for dex and B for intelligence. The requirements are only 8 strength, so you don't need to be really strong, 22 dexterity and 22 intelligence. It scales with magic. The skill is exactly the same as the Wing of Estelle, being Nebula, and this has got a 25 FP cost. So the Wing of Estelle, if you do the Nebula, is going to chuck a load of like stars in front of you, and they're going to explode, and it deals really good damage. So that's going to be good for enemies in front of you. However, with the Bastard Stars, if the enemies are anywhere around you, Nebula is going to cast the stars in a 360. So you're going to have the stars exploding all around you. It's a much bigger like range of damage that they deal. And I just absolutely love the look and the feel of having that magic explosive damage. So if I come down here to a little group of enemies and I run in with the skill, it does a standard hit as well. And then if I try and avoid these, because I absolutely hate them. And then if I do it again, because there's enemies all around me, them explosions deal a very decent amount of damage. And you're obviously getting the damage from the hit. But if you're against a boss, all those explosions are going to deal high amounts of damage. And not only that, if you have a look at the weapon, it's such a cool looking weapon as well. So, weapon number 4, you wouldn't really expect these weapons to pop up in a top weapons list. But this is the Uchigatana. This is the starting weapon for a samurai. This is easily obtained for any other class. And the reason I've got it on this list, it's got a dexterity scaling of B, D for strength and arcane. But the reason it scales so well with arcane is because I've got seppuku on it. And it's got a blood loss build-up of 110. The reason I put this in a list is because when you're running Rivers of Blood, when you've got Nagakiba, like pretty much any blood-based weapon, if you have this, or any katana, so even like the Moon Veil, having this as a secondary weapon is probably the best thing you can do. The Nagakiba is quite cool, it's got a much bigger range, it's a longer katana, but the Uchigatana, easy to obtain, starting weapon with a samurai, as I've already said, and it's just so good to run in your offhand, so you can dual wield katanas, you can get all that blood loss build up damage and everything like that. So it's not necessarily about the moveset or anything like that, it's all just based on this is such a universal weapon to improve the power of any build you are running in the game that's based on blood loss and just katanas and stuff in general. So if I do equip the Rivers of Blood in my main hand and I put the Uchigatana in my offhand, you'll see that we go from the standards, like just normal katana slashes. If we then use the left bumper, you're going to get a really cool double katana and at the end a double slash moveset. So it's not about the weapon itself being overpowered, dealing a load of damage and all that sort of stuff. It's just about it being so viable in many builds in the game. And weapon number 5, the penultimate, are the Bloodhound Claws. They are going to scale with strength and dex, being a C for strength and D for dex. They've got a blood loss build up. The requirements are 10 strength and 15 dexterity. And the reason I've got these in there, you don't have a really high physical damage or anything like that. They are very good for a blood build, so a bleed build. But not only that, it's for the Ash of War that comes on these when you just pick them up. So the default Ash of War, and that is Bloodhound Step. It is such a good Ash of War because you go invisible as you're dashing. So you can get in and out. So like standing here, go in, get an attack in, and then you can just get back out of the range of the enemy. So if we come down to the enemies here, if I do a quick Bloodhound Step in, get a couple of attacks, and then he starts attacking me, no you don't. You get straight back out of there. Bloodhound Step is such a good, useful skill in this game, and you can pick up the Ash of War separately. It's just that Bloodhound Claws come with the Ash of War built in. So like this guy here, when he does this, I can just dash out of the way. No more dying whilst I'm showcasing. I mean, it is only for the Bloodhound Claws. I'll probably die next weapon. But the final weapon is Commander's Standard. I wouldn't really use this as a standalone weapon. It's more going to be for the skill. It scales with strength and dexterity. B for strength, D for dex. The requirements are 24 strength and 14 dexterity. The physical attack power is quite high. And if you look at the attack power, left armament 553. So it's not too bad. It's not amazing, but it's not too bad. It's classed as a halberd, and the rallying standard skill is going to cost you 30 FP. But the reason I'm showing you this weapon and why I like it so much is if we put on the, let's just put on the Rivers of Blood. If I do a standard attack against this enemy, so I come down here and I do one right bumper slash, that's 519 damage. With this, you go from 519, if I switch over, I two-hand it, I use the skill, and then I can completely put the weapon away. I can even go and sit at a site of grace, And this buff is going to stay there. The buff is going to boost your attack and your defense by 20%. And I believe it lasts for about 30 seconds. So that 519 attack goes up to 623. So having that 20% bonus for about 30 seconds, even after you switched. If you use something like the Jellyfish Shield, I believe that is a 20% buff as well. As soon as you switch out from that shield, that buff is going to disappear. With Commander's Standard and the Rallying Standard skill, that buff will last when you switch over to two-hand, when you put the weapon away, when you rest at a site of grace. It's always going to be there for 30 seconds. So, that was a look at 6 weapons you must have in Elden Ring, and that is going to wrap up this video. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments, and also let me know your favourite weapon in Elden Ring, and I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed it.